There are nights on Prince Edward Island when the fog doesn't just roll in, it settles. Heavy, quiet, like the strait itself is holding its breath, waiting. If you've lived here long enough, you've heard them. The stories. The stories of a ship that appears when the air turns still, lanterns burning, and sails moving across the Northumberland Strait, long after it should have been gone. No one has ever truly agreed on what the ship is or if there is a purpose of these sightings. Over the years, islanders on and off the water alike have tried to give it a name and a reason, what they are seeing logically, to anchor the mystery to some real tragedy that has been lost to history beneath the waves. Some believe the phantom is the ghost of the Colbert, a brig said to have gone down off the Gaspé Peninsula during an October storm in 1838. The ship had been bound for Quebec, carrying gold and wine when it struck a reef and burned. Of the 50 souls on board, only 7 survived. Many say the fiery ship still wanders the strait, reliving her final moments again and again. Others believe it to be the Isabella, which vanished without an explanation in 1868. A lighthouse keeper on Amet Island off the coast of Nova Scotia reportedly watched the ship disappear slowly into the fog, sailing into the mist, never to be seen again. Some even whisper that the ship belonged to Captain Kidd, condemned to roam the waters of the Maritimes forever, guarding a buried treasure hidden somewhere along the Atlantic coastline. And then there are the older stories, the ones spoken more quietly, of bad omens and forerunners. Many believe that seeing the ship foretells of a tragedy close to home, or of a death in the community that witnesses it. Others say that it is an omen of impending bad weather or of an approaching nor'easter, which is why it is most often seen in the months of September through November. Of course, there are no scientific facts or evidence supporting these sightings and beliefs. Like so many of the stories surrounding the phantom ship, the tales survive through hearsay, memory, and personal experiences passed from one generation to the next. And yet, even the most rational explanations leave questions behind. None of them fully explain the earliest recorded sighting, said to date back to 1786 near the Sea Cow Head area, decades before the lighthouse itself was built. According to the old account, a watchman observed a 3-masted schooner being driven towards the rocky cliff during a violent northeastern gale. Just as it seemed certain to crash, the vessel turned back out to sea and vanished into the storm. Over the years, people from one end of the island to the other have described seeing something in the strait. Sometimes the accounts are brief, little more than, "I saw it too," while some are spoken of casually. One person, while growing up in Enmore in the 50s and 60s, recalled hearing their mother quietly saying, "The ship is out there tonight." Other encounters carry details that are far more unsettling and linger with witnesses, making them wonder, what if? In 1963, witnesses in the Bury Harbor watched what appeared to be a burning vessel for hours. At times, it seemed close enough to make out figures moving across the deck, as though they were people scrambling aboard a ship, trapped between the sandbars. Then, just as suddenly, it drifted back out into the strait and disappeared. Through the generations of descriptions, there are often repeated the same details. Witnesses spoke of flames moving across the water, of 3 masts outlined against the fog, of bells ringing somewhere out in the distance. Some heard voices and screams carried across the strait from places they should not have been. Some accounts are casual, and others stay with people for decades. One account from South Lake described a distant bell echoing across the water late one evening. Drawn to the window, the witness watched lights bobbing in the water before a ship appeared, its masts ablaze. They could hear screams and yelling as they ran outside. By the time they made it to where they had seen it from the window, there was no evidence of anything other than the sound of the waves against the shore. Perhaps one of the strangest parts of some stories is how a group of people on the same area of shoreline, but different locations, same time of day, all witnessed something different in the water. On a foggy night near Georgetown in the early 2000s, several people reported seeing strange lights moving near Poxy Island. One person believed they saw a ship on fire. Another heard screams and splashing, as if people were jumping into the water. Same night, different locations, no description the same. I never gave much thought to it myself growing up. In fact, I had never even heard the stories when I witnessed something in the Charlottetown harbor in 1990. I was 15 at the time, walking across the Hillsborough Bridge with a couple of friends. We were just coming off the bridge on the Charlottetown side when there was a bright flash of light off to my left. When I turned my head to look, there I saw a ship with the masts on fire. I could feel the heat, so much so that I remember raising my hand up to ward it off. There was yelling and movement, but then it was gone. It didn't last more than 2 or 3 seconds at most. Then there was nothing. My friends didn't see anything. I still remember them turning and asking me what I was doing. At the time, I convinced myself that it was nothing, just a trick of the mind on a hot day. But the image of that ship stayed with me. I can still picture it. It wasn't until much later that I learned of the fiery ship. I heard Lenny Gallant's song Tales of the Phantom Ship, and from then on was hooked. I started researching and looking for the stories myself. The very first one I read was the 1900 account of an attempted rescue that happened in the Charlottetown harbor. The story goes that one evening approaching dusk, a 3-masted sailing vessel seemed to be in distress in the harbor. It was on fire from end to end. A group of men launched a boat, hoping to save as many as possible. As they rowed out, it faded into the mist. Reports say divers were sent out, but no trace of a ship was ever found. The more I looked, the more stories and sightings emerged, tales of the fiery ship where none should be. Stories like these are why the phantom ship continues to fascinate islanders to this day. For every witness account that emerges, there are those that search for a practical explanation. Could these legends and stories be explained away as a natural phenomenon? Sure, it's definitely possible. The most common explanation is that it's St. Elmo's fire, a rare weather effect where a blue or violet glow forms around pointed objects during electrically charged storms. It is known to appear on ship masts, rigging, and even airplane wings. What would look like flames is actually plasma, an ionized glow caused by atmospheric conditions. Perhaps it is even simpler than that. Fog along the strait, distant lights reflecting on the water, and the human mind trying to make sense of shifting shapes in the dark. Even now, after centuries of stories, sightings, and theories, whether you believe it or not, the phantom ship remains a big part of island folklore and legend, as no single explanation has ever fully settled it.